Welcome to Warwick. Welcome to university. Welcome to a new term. It's great that you're with us, whether that's physically here or joining online. Welcome. It feels like a very long time ago when I first went to university, but I can remember a strange mix of excitement and anxiety. I've done really well to get here. Everyone else seems to come from very different places to me. Where am I supposed to be now? This place is so beautiful. I can be myself here. How does the email work? What next? An enormous whirl of the amazing, the mundane, and the purely new. So many opportunities, so much that's different, so much I don't yet know. But of course this year, as we are having to say so often, everything is different. I'm not sure what you were expecting when you were applying for courses, but it probably wasn't this. I started working here at Warwick a year ago. I thought this year's Welcome Week I would feel much more that I knew what I was doing than I did last year. It didn't quite work out like that. Here we are though, and we are all working our way through, and all will be well. We often in this service use the lectionary to guide our choice of Bible readings, but I have chosen today to come away from it and to use a different text. So we heard the story of Jesus being tempted in the wilderness. Some of you will know that we usually read that on the first Sunday of Lent. For me, in some ways, COVID, lockdown, restrictions has felt like a long Lent, and still does. Much of what is normal has been put on one side, and we need to live disciplined lives for the protection of ourselves and others. I don't like restrictions on social gatherings. I don't like wearing a mask. I don't like risk assessments. I'm not sure any of us do. But these things matter as we take care for others and for ourselves, especially for those who are most vulnerable. We take them as a discipline that we know is for our collective benefit. The story is at the beginning of Jesus' earthly ministry. In Matthew's Gospel, we've had the account of his birth and what led up to that, a gap of 30 years or so, then the ministry of John the Baptist and Jesus' baptism, before we get to the story we heard today. We don't really know what Jesus did in those intervening 30 years. Traditionally, it said he lived a fairly ordinary life and worked as a carpenter with Joseph in Nazareth. So Jesus' baptism and then this journey out into the wilderness mark a transitional time. It's the space between one thing and another. But it's not empty space. Far from it. It is formational space. It's space for changing and growing. Not a million miles away from what you might say time at university is about. Matthew tells us that Jesus is led by the Spirit into the wilderness. I love Mark's version even more. He uses the Greek word ekbalo. Jesus is thrown out into the wilderness by the Spirit. It's much more energetic. Perhaps idiomatically we might say he was catapulted into the wilderness. Did I want to end up here? Who knows? But here I am anyway. He will be there 40 days and 40 nights. Probably not literally, as this is a biblical figure of speech, which means a long time. You might remember that similarly Noah's flood lasts 40 days and 40 nights. In the wilderness, by definition, nothing is normal. All the ordinary things are gone and there is not much to replace them. Indeed, Jesus fasts in this time, going without food and water. That life sawing wood in Nazareth must have seemed a long way away. It's in this place of strangeness and deprivation that temptation comes. In the person of the devil, seemingly harmless things are offered to Jesus, enticing him to take them. There are lots of ways to interpret the temptations, but one of the ways I understand them is as temptations to the shortcut or the easy way out. Jesus does need to eat. Jesus will be protected by the angels if he calls. Jesus' inheritance is indeed all the kingdoms of the world. But he won't get there like this. He knows there is not actually an easy shortcut, and the offer that seems too good to be true probably is. I wonder what the temptations are of this time for us. It's certainly easy to long for the easy answer. It's not really very serious. It'll be over by Christmas. It's all a hoax. But I think in our heart of hearts we all know that danger lies that way. Further, there are temptations to lay blame, to become angry at one another, as well as temptations to abandon hope and think that this will never be over. But for Jesus in the wilderness, this is not the end. And for us, this is not the end either. This is about now, and it too will pass. What can we do? Be kind to yourself. Alongside being a chaplain, I'm a PhD student, and one of the things my supervisor said early in lockdown is none of us are doing our best work at the moment. Do what you can do. It's enough. Be kind to others. Remember that everyone else is doing what they can do, and be ready to cut them some slack. Focus on what is possible, not what isn't. There are things we can do even if they take some working out and extra effort. There are even possibilities we don't normally have, like being able to connect with groups and people in other countries and places who we don't normally get the chance to interact with. Focus on what can be done and relish the things that are extra opportunities. And above all, remember, this is not forever. This is just now. One day you'll be looking back on what it was like to live through COVID-19. As Jesus spent that long time in the wilderness, I wonder what he felt would be in his future. I wonder if even he couldn't imagine all that would lie ahead. But he knew, from his baptism, if nothing else, that he was God's beloved. We too can know that. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, next week, next term, next year. But we do know that God will be with us, and that each and every one of us, without exception, is God's beloved. And I said to the one who stood at the gate of the year, "Give me a light that I may tread safely into the unknown." And they replied, "Go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That shall be to you better than light, and safer than a known way." Amen.